delighted to invite in Dan O'Sullivan, aka Dagger Dan from Dagenham ABC and from many other places to the podcast. Dan, how you doing, mate?
Very good, thanks, Adam. Really good. Looking forward to a nice break. This is me done for the year. I've got 2 weeks off now. Lovely jubbly.
Nice. Get those hands in the Quality Streets and Roses, sharpish. I'd say. Right, here we go. You ready for this? I'm gonna bring you in. Here we go. So Dagger Dan, judge, coach, official, MC, club support officer, club secretary, chairman, club welfare officer, regional welfare officer, safeguard lead, safeguard course deliverer, London DBS checker. He's been previously elected to the ABAE council by the old London ABA, sat on the committee of the North East Division's London ABA, was the voice of a tiny little event called the London 2012 Olympic Games, and a partridge in a pear tree. Have I missed anything, mate?
I'm a father to two sons as well.
Two sons.
One of those was a boxer for a little while, but he's not doing it no more.
Was he a dagger as well?
Yeah, he was a dagger. Yeah, he had about 15 bouts. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so quite a repertoire there. So first question then: how long have you been in boxing, and how the hell do you do it?
Yes, long time. I boxed for Dagenham as a kid from the age of, I joined the club at about 8 or 9 with my brothers, Sean and Brendan. The original Dagenham Boxing Club was based at a place called the Boathouse in Dagenham. So we all had quite a few bouts. My brother Sean was probably the best out of the three of us. And then we get that age where you meet ladies. Sean stopped boxing, Brendan stopped boxing. I carried on until I was about 21. I joined the Met Police and I started boxing for them and had a very, very, very good run with them. 21 wins in a row with the Met Police boxing team, or the British Police boxing team. And then while I was boxing for the police, a good friend of mine was running the club at the time, Mark Masso. You might have heard of Mark. He's very involved in boxing still. He's involved at a pro level now. He was running the club and he asked for a bit of help. So I went down, give him a bit of help, done my level 1 coaching course. This was in 91, and then done my level 2 pretty much straight away, about 2 years after that, 93, I think 94. And then Mark decided he was going in the army. So just before he went in the army, he said, I'm handing everything over to you. This was at the old Dagenham Boxing Club. And then about a month after Mark left, we got an eviction notice from the local authority evicting us from the gym. So then we had a 2-year battle with the council, and we, I nearly lost my job, actually. I was a copper at the time, police officer, and they threatened to sack me for taking the council to court. But in the end, the council accepted out of court. They accepted that they had illegally evicted us, and they moved us to the gym we're at now. And this was nearly 30 years ago, just under 30 years ago. So we've been in the gym we're at now for just under 30 years. Coming up next year will be our 30th year. And it's all happened since then, really. That's how I got involved. So initially, my brother Sean also got involved from day one, and a very good friend of mine, a very decorated England boxing official called Keith Mills. He got on board from the very start. Both my parents got involved. My dad is currently our president of the Dagenham Boxing Club. Mum's one of 2 treasurers. So yeah, it's a family affair. My brother Brendan then got involved for a while as well. He became a level 1 and level 2 coach, but he doesn't coach anymore. He was in the fire brigade. And yeah, so me and Sean have sort of been doing that since then. We've had lots and lots of coaches come and go over the years. Some great coaches over the years have been with us and left us. And it's sort of, I've seen that constant sort of flow of coaches. There's been a few, like I say, that have sort of stuck with us from day one. Keith Mills in particular. Peter Weeks is another one that's been with us pretty much from day one. We've got a really good group of coaches. We've got, sounds like loads, we've got 25 coaches at the moment at Dagenham, which sounds really good.
25, okay.
Yeah, I know, it sounds really good. But we've got 5 leaving, because we've got one of our head coach at the moment. He's just about to open his own club in Thurrock. I knew that was happening. There's been no fallout whatsoever. It's all very much been arranged and we're all cool with it. And so he's going off, and a few of our coaches are going with him because they've obviously built a rapport, and that means, as always, quite a few boxers go. So yeah, it's changed, but I've seen it over the years. It's happened loads of times. So when you get a big coach or a big boxer leave, lots of boxers go. But yes, so I started off coaching. Then I've done me judging course, me grade C judging course with Jason Ball and a few other people back in the day. Then I've done my grade B judging course. Level 1, level 2 coach, grade A, grade B judge. And that's when you started having to put together your club committee, constitution, all that, have it all running properly, people getting elected, and then just found myself falling into more and more positions. And my brother Brendan was the original MC from my family. He used to MC our shows when we first started having shows, but then he couldn't do a show one night, and I ended up doing it, and it went from there really. I just started. A lot of people started asking me to do their shows, and I got involved. Next thing you know, I've been asked to do the national schools finals. That was at Dagenham at Goresbrook Leisure Centre. And it went from there. And I've now done 6 national schools finals, 5 NAC finals. I think I've done 6 junior finals. I've done the youths, I've done the NACYPs. And then I've done a few internationals, World Series boxing. And then obviously I knew about the London 2012 Olympics coming up. Now I know you was going to get onto this, Adam.
Possibly.
But I'll let you introduce that one.
Well, okay, yeah, not nice little change over to that there. Right, so yeah, a lot of people know you as the MC, and as you've just said, there's incredible amount of sort of feathers in your cap, strings to your bow. But let's talk about the MC part first. But I do want to go into the coaching side as well a little bit later. So you've MC'd incredible amount of bouts. You've done Haringey, you've done all England Boxing Championships I had to throw at you. Of course, the London 2012. Let's start there. Did that start with a phone call?
It actually started with a promise. You might know a very, very decorated judge, referee called Mick Bassey from the Bassey family.
Yeah, of course.
Mick. And he was at the time, he'd become a very senior referee and judge with England Boxing, or the Amateur Boxing Association as it was back then. And him and me, I was constantly on the circuit in the championships, introducing the boxers on the mic. And he kept saying to me in the ring, one day when the Olympic comes, we're going to do it together. And that opportunity come up. Obviously, they put in the bid for the Olympics, and we backed the bid. And my borough got very involved in it, where we was one of the 6 sort of Olympic boroughs. And yeah, Mick sort of pretty much said, we are going to do the Olympics together. And that was about 5 years before the Olympics. So then when it come up and they started having the test events and the auditions for people's positions, I put in for it, as you do. And I went up to the XL, had an audition, and there was quite a lot of us done the audition. I don't know exactly how many, but there was quite a lot of people apply for it. And I got through the auditions, and it was down to the last 6 of us, and then 6 of us done a sort of live test event, and they wanted to pick 2 English-speaking MCs to do the Olympics. And yeah, it went really, really well. But I still didn't think I was going to get it. Not in my wildest dreams did I think I was going to get it. But I did. I got it. Me and my very good friend Bob Smith were picked to do the MCing as the English-speaking MCs. There was also a French-speaking MC. And it was a bit of a dream. But once they said to me, you've got the job, we want you to do it, I then had to approach my boss, because I was a full-time police officer. So I sent him an email and said, look, boss, I've applied for this position. Can I take sort of 6 to 8 weeks unpaid leave to do the Olympics? And he just sent back a 1-line response, let's get ready to rumble, and let me do it. And he let me do it whilst on full pay as a copper. So it sounds a bit naughty, but he basically sort of said that was a kind of almost a sort of congratulations on what you do in the community. And that's how I've always looked at it, Adam, to be honest with you. I think it was a bit of a thank you for what you do in the community. And the local, I really invest myself in the local community. I liaise and meet regularly with our local councillors, our local MP, our local police chiefs and that. So I'm constantly sort of trying to sort of make the place better. And obviously my angle on it is reducing crime and that sort of thing by getting kids involved in boxing. But yeah, the Olympics was a dream come true. I loved it, every minute of it. And the icing on the cake, I thought I was doing it for nothing. I didn't realise it was a paid position until they sent me my contract. And there was a little sort of, I went through it, it's like a 30-page document, signed it, sent it back. Didn't even know at that point, just didn't even read it properly. But then Bob Smith, the other MC, he rang me and said, do you realise we're getting paid for this? So it was, but it actually, one thing it did do, it ballsed up my tax bracket, because it took me above the earner bracket. And so I ended up no better off, really. But it was brilliant. Best thing. I could not have been happier. It was a dream come true. Really, really, really enjoyed every minute of it. It was so fascinating. And luckily, I didn't make a mistake. That was what I was really, really worried about. I was worried about sort of live on the air making a mistake. That was my worst fear, but it didn't
Well,
happen.
like a stutter or saying the wrong
Just
name or
getting
something.
something wrong, yeah, maybe announcing the wrong winner, getting it wrong. Because in the Olympics, although it was computer scoring, it was bits of paper. There was, you had one guy who was called, we called him the slug. He used to walk around the ring to all the scores and bring them over to us. And then if it went to count back, he had to go back again with them. It was a nightmare, the system. It did. I thought it was good. The scoring was good for London 2012.
Did you get to, because you're working and there's no bigger stage. The world's looking at you. There's hundreds of millions of people looking at you at one point just to see if you're going to say red or blue. Did you manage to kind of just sort of sit back and go, absorb it and go, I'm here, enjoying it, and I'm actually watching the boxing, or was it business?
Yeah, I had my business head on because we had earphones on and it was very focused. But I think as it went on, as we got to the sort of quarterfinal, semi-final stages, I sort of felt like it felt like home really because I was there so much, so long hours there. And yeah, I just felt like I did absorb it. And what was really nice, there were a lot of people around us, in the crowd. I had my parents come, my boys came, some of the club personnel, and it was just nice to sort of see them be there and be part of it. It was just it was unreal. I mean, I'll never forget Katie Taylor's final. I've never heard noise like it. It was unbelievable. I think that got the highest decibels for the boxing at London 2012. You'd think it would have been Anthony Joshua, but I'm pretty sure it was Katie Taylor. And then
Taylor Jonas, I think, wasn't it? Not the final, but I was there. I managed to get tickets for Taylor Jonas, and I couldn't believe it.
yeah,
I couldn't believe it.
was unreal, wasn't it?
I remember as well looking around the arena. I do this weird thing where when I'm at a big event and something I want to kind of almost bookmark in my head, I try and do this thing where I stop for a second, I look around, and I try and do this like photograph in my head of remember this, remember this, remember this. And I looked around and I just kept saying to myself, remember this, remember this, remember this. And then this roar went up. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I think we were outdone by the Irish in terms of the roar
Definitely.
there. But it was incredible, and look look how both of those have gone on to now. Apart from that bout, because that was like the wow moment, wasn't it? What other bouts do you remember from those Olympics as a bit of a bookmark for you?
Obviously, the big one was obviously AJ because for 2 years before AJ got to the Olympics, obviously we knew that he got the silver medal in the World Championships, and we knew he was going to. I actually predicted he was going to get there and win the gold medal. I'm not blowing my own trumpet here, but I always said AJ can win the gold medal here. He's got it in him, and I did think he was a little bit. There was a bit of fortune, but listen, you take your fortune when you get it, didn't you? I was so pleased he won that Olympics. It was brilliant. I was an ex-Finchley boxer, so I trained at Finchley for 5 years when I boxed for the Met Police. And obviously that's where AJ was when he won the Olympics. So that was quite special as well, very special. Having introduced AJ at the Haringey Box Cup previously as well, and sort of watched him develop. And I also was one of very few people that knew the backstory with AJ and the problems he had out of boxing that could quite easily have prevented him from being in the Olympics, let alone winning the Olympics. So it was a really sweet story to see him get his hand lifted. And when he did, you had the likes. I'll never forget that. They all walked over to the ring. You had Vladimir Klitschko, Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield. They're all standing right next to me, and I'm like, what? I didn't get hardly any photos. It was usually I missed the selfie, but we weren't allowed to have phones while we were emceeing, so I didn't get hardly any photos.
Yeah, a few opportunities missed there. Yeah, absolutely incredible. So you mentioned there Haringey as well. So Haringey has become arguably, I don't know about these ones internationally, but arguably the best box competition in the world. You know, they say it's the biggest in Europe, don't they? I think, but arguably the best. It's got the biggest reputation, you know, and it's every amateur boxing club's got it in their calendar for June. So you obviously MC that, but you're a massive part of that. Why is the Haringey Box Cup such a phenomenon?
I think partly because it was one of the first, if not the first, box cup in this country in terms of the number of rings it has, and you can't mention Haringey Box Cup without the Alexandra Palace. Ali Pali is such a place. It's such a beautiful part of London. It's probably one of the most beautiful venues, if not the most beautiful venue in boxing. It really is, and I love the place. There's a connection there again for me, because when I joined the Met Police Boxing Club was based at a club called Alexandra Palace, which was in Ali Pali. So I spent 2 years training at Ali Pali. And it's gone full circle, because last year, although Alexandra Palace Boxing Club closed down in, I think, 1995 or 1996, they reopened it again last year. So there's a new Ali Pali Boxing Club.
Oh,
It's not
okay.
actually,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's not called Ali Pali Boxing Club. It's called Elite Genius Boxing Club or something like that now. But it's in Ali Pali, in the same place where I used to train as well. So my coach at the time there was Jerry Wilmot. He's an ex-police officer, and he was one of the founders of the Haringey Box Cup. Him, Ken Marsh, obviously Brian John, and Terry Kelly. They're the 4 founders of the Haringey Box Cup. And a lot of people think I'm one of the founders. I'm not. I just, like you say, I'm just the MC. But they all give me a hell of a lot. I feel honoured, to be honest, to be part of it. I get involved setting up, doing accreditation, trying to help where I can, and then I get my suit on and get the mic out, and obviously I have my music on as well, and then I MC it. But the MCing of the Haringey is the most tiring of all the MCing I do. I wouldn't miss it.
I actually see you running. I actually
Yeah.
see you running between rings as opposed to strolling. Literally have to run.
Yeah.
But your fitness is bang on now, isn't it?
Every year I say I've got to count my steps, and I never do. But do you know what does me, Adam, with the Haringey Box Cup? And I've got to tell you this. People still say to me, "How did you see that bout?" And I'm like, "I'm doing 5 rings here. How can I watch that bout?" Or they'll stop me and say, what round number's that in ring C, or what round? And I'm like, I don't know. I barely know where I am, let alone what ring that is. But
So
it's
you're
a good
looking
event,
down at a
as you
sheet
say.
of paper and then
Yeah.
looking up at a ring, running to the ring, looking back down at the sheet of paper, running up to looking up another ring.
Yeah.
Is it still 5 rings?
Yeah, well, yeah, they're talking. Brian Johnny's talking about a 6 ring this year, and I'd love to do 6 rings. Really would love to do it. I think it's doable. A lot of people say to me, "Why don't you just have another MC or 3 MCs?" But you can only ever have 1 MC talking at any one time, and
Yeah,
it just don't work with 2 MCs. And it's not me trying to sort of claim it. We have tried it, and it just doesn't work. So
yeah, you'd be talking over each other, wouldn't you, when
Yeah.
each other starting? Do you know what? I think there's an opportunity for you to be sponsored by Strava.
yeah,
Just
count
bring it-
those steps. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's some serious
exactly.
mileage goes in. But do you know what I could tell you as well? I've been wearing the same Italian leather shoes from day one, and I will not get rid of those shoes until the Haringey Box Cup finishes. Because at some point it's not going to happen. It's happening again next year, and there's plans for it to happen for as long as possible. But everything comes to an end one day, and I've and it's usually down to the personnel. Jerry Wilmot and Ken Marsh, who done a lot of the logistics for the Box Cup and raising the money for the Box Cup. There's a huge cost. I know it's sort of around about £45,000 each year just to hire the venue. That's without the rings, that's without all the food and everything for the officials and the medals and all the other stuff. But Jerry and Ken have now retired from the police, so I'm not sure how much longer they'll be involved in it, but they're both involved last year, and I know they're both planning to be involved next year. Brian and John, I think they'd do it forever. And they do such a good job. And you can't mention the Haringey Box Cup without mentioning Jablinked. They do a fantastic job. They make it flow. I remember the first few years before we used Jablink to do the draw and the entries, and Brian John used to have to write it all down, and I kid you not, there was smoke coming out of his ears, and everyone was asking, "What bet am I on? What corner am I in?" It was
For those who are not sure, Dan, what is Jablink? For those who are not sure,
it's the software which we use, or it's the company we use who provide the software that basically all the boxers book in, they weigh in. It's all done digitally on these digital lanyards that they use at the Haringey Box Cup, and everything's on their lanyard. And so the draw, the rings, everything's done on this software, and you press a button and it prints everything out. It does it all magically for you, and it saves a hell of a lot of work. And Paul Kelly and Keenan run it. They're fantastic, and that has made a big difference. I mean, if you ask Brian John, he'd probably think that's the best thing that ever happened to Haringey Box Cup, because he used to do it manually himself, and that was real hard work. It used to take ages.
like a bingo card in the end, didn't he? Just crossing everything out and
Yeah.
getting everything back in. Yeah, nightmare.
It's
So
grown, it's got bigger and better.
but it's almost like, how can it get bigger and better? You know, it's almost like, how can it?
6 rings. That's what.
Six
That's what I
rings,
want.
seven
I want
rings,
6 rings.
rings. Bloody Lord of the Rings. It's got to be so many rings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. Good luck with that. Right. Let's talk about Dagger Dan, the coach, then. Because, like I say, a lot of people, the first thing they will associate you with, rightly or wrongly, would be the MCing. But there's masses that go behind the scene in terms of your involvement with Dagenham, in terms of you as a coach. So tell us about you as a coach. What's your sort of day-to-day involvement in the club?
So I'm a level 3 coach, and not many people know that. Most people probably think I'm a sort of level 1 skivvy, but I do coach exclusively with beginners, absolute beginners. At Dagenham, we've got a group called our Winkles. These are kids aged between 8 and 11. That's our foundation group. Within, we've got junior development groups. They're all aged 11 to 18, and they're the only ones I coach at the moment. Although over the years I've coached, boxers at championship level through the championships. I rarely go in the corner at all. Even rarer that you see me in the corner in a championship. But in the last few years, I've actually ended up in the corner, magical spit bucket man for a couple of boxers, and we got a couple of champions out of that. I still coach 2 or 3 nights a week. I'm at the gym at the moment, every Tuesday and Friday night. I also try and work from the gym a couple of days a week to sort of get face-to-face meetings done. But yeah, coaching-wise, I sort of drill them, get the basics right, the footwork, the stance, get them moving around, distance right on the bags, pads. Once they're sparring, we get them carded, obviously, for sparring. And once they've had 2 or 3 bouts in the group that I'm in, we move them on to at the moment, it's called our carded group. It's really a championship group. If we see any kids that have got any potential to go in a championship, we move them on to another group. But as I say, there are a few changes going on at my gym at the moment in terms of personnel moving around, which you get all the time. But I generally only coach beginners. Otherwise, I was coached once a good few years ago by a guy called Phil Pearson at the Trojan Boxing Club, which is where the Police Boxing Club moved to after Alexandra Palace, and then it moved to Finchley. He's the most relaxed coach I ever had in the corner, and I always sort of try and sort of nick a bit of something off every coach, and he's one. The one thing I nicked off him, he was one of those coaches that if you were winning the bout comfortably, he'd give you a drink of water, carry on doing what you're doing, that's it. There was no change, no try this, no try that, just keep doing what you're doing. So learned a lot of him. Obviously, my old coaches, when I boxed at Dagenham as a kid myself with my brothers, a lot of what I learned from them, I still use, especially some of the footwork drills we do at the gym. And then some of the senior coaches I work around, we have quite a lot of squads at my gym, whether it be women's squads, this girl can box, regional squads. We've even had national squads there, and I've picked up so much off some of the great coaches, and very good coach Mick Maguire, Q Shillingford. He runs the This Girl Can Box for Terry Kelly at the gym. He comes down. I'm always watching all the other sort of experienced coaches and picking up little bits and bobs. And I just don't think you ever stop learning as a coach. I feel like I also learn off some of the new coaches. They'll go on sort of level 1s, level 2s, come back with ideas and say, we should do this, we should try that. And I'm always cool for that. I like to try new stuff.
Hi all, just a quick time out from today's episode to let you all know that our next course has just landed on the website. It's called Habits of Effective Coaching. The course contains 5 modules, which is understanding boxing knowledge, the ologies and how to effectively coach it, how to form connection with your boxers, how to be an adaptable coach, how to delegate responsibility in your coaching team, and finally, how to be a consistent and accountable coach. The course not only provides the theory behind these essential skills and habits, but discusses practical tools and how you can implement them in your day-to-day boxing coaching. Then, as per our current and forthcoming courses, you can take our quiz to check your understanding of all of the content and its material. Join our ever-growing community of members today at www.theboxgathering.com. Now, back to the show.
Absolutely. I mean, there's millions of role models, especially around London, of coaches that you can learn from all the time. Here's a question for you. How would your boxers that you work with and coach, how would they describe you as a coach? Let's flip it there.
I feel like I'm quite liked by our boxers, but I'd probably say I'm a bit of a soft touch coach. I mean, Jason Ball, for example, he's a coach at our gym, and he says to me, you're too soft with him. You're miles too soft with him. He says, you mollycoddle them, you wrap roll around them. Yeah, I'm a bit of a softie like that. And probably so's my brother Sean to a degree. But I just feel like you need to get the trust of the kids in particular. to buid that rapport, and they need to trust in you. As long as they trust in you, they'll believe in themselves. And it all happens. We had it recently. Jaden Slade, I've got to mention. Kid, he started with us when he was 5. He's now 15, coming up 16, might be 16 already, and he's just won his second national title. And me and my brother Sean done his corner, and that was really nice. That was probably one of the best moments in boxing for me. I worked with Jaden as a beginner for nearly 5 years until he got to the point where he was competing, and his competition didn't start well. He had a nosebleed problem and nervous problem, but we could always see once he got his head around it and got around the corner, we could always see him winning titles, and he has. He's now a club junior captain. And that's for me what makes it all worthwhile. He's one of the big success stories for me. Obviously, we've had the success, as you mentioned earlier, of Billy Adams. He started what we called the takeover, winning the senior NACs, and then on the same day, Darren Bailey won the national development title as well in London at the University of East London. And that was a big starting point for us. Then Lewis Passfield, great coach, moved over to us from Chapel St Mary. And he's been a big part of our success over the last 3 years. Last season, we won 10 national titles, which is our record, including 4 schools titles. We nearly won our first female schools title as well. But that's going to happen next year. Yeah, so it's going really well at the moment. But we've never really been, I wouldn't describe Dagenham Boxing Club as a success-driven club. I'd rather sort of put us as more of a sort of inclusive community club that gives everyone the maximum opportunities we can.
But isn't that the reason for the success in the ring as well, though? It's kind of linked.
I think so, but I also definitely think part of the personnel. It's no coincidence that, when Lewis Passfield and Jason Ball joined us, we started having success. Jason Ball run West Ham Boxing Club for 10 years or whatever it was, very, very successfully, one of the biggest, most successful clubs in the country. And he's added that sort of injection of sort of wanting success, as Lewis as well. Lewis is quite obsessed with success. He don't like losing, whereas I'm kind of like, I don't like losing, but I don't get my knickers in a twist if we don't win a title one year. I don't get my knickers in a twist if we don't win a box cup. Yeah, like I say, the last few years have been fantastic, really, really manic. But as you're very heavily involved in a successful club. When you have success, it costs a lot more. That success is a big cost to the club in terms of paying for coaches to travel around, going to all the championships and all the box cups. And that's one thing I've noticed. I'm forever applying for funding left, right and centre, trying to get things covered, because most of the kids we've got, or some of the kids we've got in the gym can't even afford to pay the fees, let alone travel around the box cups and championships. So we try and make it as easy as we can. And I try not to. I feel like at points there can be we create a kind of 2-tier boxing club. One half of the boxers who can afford to do anything, go anywhere, they get to do everything, and then the boxers that can't afford it can't. And I feel like I don't want to leave them out. I want to make sure all of them have got the same opportunities, regardless of financial barriers.
So if they can pay, great. If they can't pay,
we'll try and raise it, or we'll try and pay for it. I mean, I'm constantly applying for additional funding to make sure kids that can't afford to come to the gym, we'll make sure we get it covered. A bit like premium cover that they get in schools for free school dinners and that sort of stuff. And there is funding out there, but it's the aggravation of having to keep applying for it, and then obviously do the monitoring and evaluation and keep it going. And it's constant. It is real constant, as you know, mate. It's more like a full-time job running that gym.
Yeah, absolutely. But you do obviously have the blend of you being a club support officer for England Boxing as well. So that expertise that you have there, you can apply to your club anyway. So that does help. We'll talk about that part in a second. What is the area like around there, around Dagenham? Is it a bit of a mix, a bit affluent in some areas, and a little bit as kids come in that don't have a penny to sort of rub together?
So I grew up in Dagenham as a kid. I moved out of Dagenham 15 years ago, or 12 or 13 years ago. I moved to Rayleigh in Essex, which is where I live now. But I'll always consider myself a Dagenham boy, even though I live in Rayleigh, and I help some of the clubs around Rayleigh. The area of Dagenham is quite deprived. You will know of the index of multiple deprivation. That's the IMD, which basically all funding applications are based around. You have to sort of all the different indicators of deprivation, whether it be school, employment, health, care, all the different things make a difference. And you can tell my club's based within a little shopping precinct and a very small shopping centre, and there's a hell of a lot of shops boarded up, closed. There's quite a lot of homelessness. I would say there's quite a lot of crime around the gym, quite close to the gym, especially sort of shoplifting and pickpocketing and thieving. And there's quite a lot of drug use around the gym, but you can see it because I can look out the gym window, I can watch it. So it isn't perfect, but it has improved a little bit over the last few years because there's a new police team that cover the area. The security in the shopping centre has improved. Yeah, so it's up and down, but I love Dagenham. I'll always be a Dagenham boy. I'll always consider myself a Dagenham boy, but there's a lot of work. I know a lot of the councillors and the local MP there, a lady called Margaret Mullane. I've got her on speed dial on my phone. She's constantly on the phone to me, giving me help and support around what I can do and how they can help me and how we can get things done. So I can't really grumble. The club exists largely because of the need for it, and there is a need for it. If there wasn't a demand for it, I mean, there's 5 amateur boxing clubs in the borough of London Borough, Barking and Dagenham, and some of like I've got Barking Boxing Club just a mile up the road. I've got New City Boxing Club a couple of miles up the road. TKO Boxing Club, TKO Barking, sorry, Boxing Club. Yeah. So there's lots of boxing clubs all around Barking and Dagenham. There's a new youth zone that's just opened, and that's got a boxing facility in it. And we do quite a bit of outreach. We do a little bit of partnership work with them. But yeah, I think we've constantly got a waiting list at Dagenham Boxing Club. When I say 200 to 300 kids in at any one time waiting to join the club. So we're constantly looking at ways we can introduce new short-term programs to sort of filter out the ones that want to go on to compete. But as you know, Adam, quite a lot of funding out there now isn't actually for boxing per se. It's for recreational boxing or inclusivity boxing. And that's where a lot of clubs don't want to do it because most coaches, they want to coach champions. They want to coach boxers. They don't want to coach people that are disabled or sensory impaired or have Parkinson's or some other neurodiverse condition. And I think, I don't think that's going to change much. Because I generally think the people that want to compete can afford to compete anyway. So we do occasionally get kids in that if that you can see they've got that potential, that talent, but they just haven't got the money that would allow them to go to box cups abroad or go to places. So we sort of do try and fill that. We make sure that everyone can afford to do everything that becomes available. Every opportunity they get, we'll make sure they can do it. That's what we try and do. Like I say, that's where I've always focused on the. I can remember when Lewis Parsfield came to us, he said, Dagenham Boxing is such a big club, huge membership, lots of really good boxers over the years, but it's a bit of a sleeping giant. And he was spot on with that. We were sort of not sleeping, but we were just sort of ticking along, quite happy to just sort of have the occasional champion. And then we went from that to having 10 champions in one season, which was just
so sleeping giant in terms of performance and wins, and championships and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and the fact that the club has got a huge membership. We have got well over 200 members coming to the gym each week. We're open 5 weekday evenings. We open Sundays. We run 7 groups. And like I said, we've got 25 coaches. It sounds like a lot of coaches, but when you spread them across 7 groups, it's not so much, depending on the coach commitment. And that's the hardest thing. I think you'd probably be better to speak about this, but I find the hardest thing to get once you get coaches is a regular commitment. If someone says to me, a coach says to me, I'll coach 2 nights a week for this long, that's perfect. But what I tend to get is coaches say, right, I'll be your coach and I'll just get there whenever I can. Well, you can't run a gym with coaches that only get there whenever they can. You need to know when they're going to be there, and those boxers need that consistency. You know, that same coach there every time. That's what I still, even after 30 years, I still get anxious about virtually every session, making sure we've got enough coach cover. Because as you know, they're all volunteers, none of them get paid. They do it out of the goodness of their heart. Most of them are ex-boxers and they just love the sport. And then when you throw into that box cup, lots of box cups, we've been averaging 12 box cups a year, championships where we've been doing really well. So we're at every stage of every championship. And then that's without just the usual shows, club shows, which I think are a bit of a dying breed at the moment. I feel like club shows are way on the back burner now in terms of
because of the box cups and the other the championships and all that.
I think it's more the box cups. I feel like a lot of the kids and the parents just want to see their kid get a gold medal. And quite often you go to a box cup, as you know, and you only end up boxing once and you get a gold medal for winning once. You should be boxing 3 times on like quarterfinal, semi-final, final for most box cups. But I feel like a lot of the box cups now, you enter you might only get one other entry at your weight and you're a straight final. So it's more like a matched bout, but you get a gold medal, and it looks better on, I suppose, your social media saying you got 6 gold medals and you won
Yeah.
6 bouts.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. People they want to see something tangible for their efforts straight
Yeah.
away, as opposed to, just enjoying the sport and developing and getting better, and prove to other people that they've just won something. So yeah, I do see that as a bit of an issue. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you. So you mentioned there's 5 clubs in your borough
Yeah.
at the moment. All 5 clubs close down tomorrow. What does that do to the community?
Well, and when I say closed down, we closed down today.
I mean, never to open again.
Oh, right. That's a
Boxing
massive
banned.
issue. You're going to have kids running around the street, running ragged. I mean, Evan Mitchell used to box for us. He boxed for Dagenham, he boxed for
Love Kevin
Hornchurch,
Mitchell,
and he
yeah.
boxed for West Ham. Love the geezer. He still comes in the gym every now and then, does a bit. He's just put out a sort of video of himself. I'm not sure if you've seen it on social media, talking about growing up and how boxing saved him. And I only watched it yesterday, and that sort of reinforced how I feel about the community. I feel like the boxing club is a safety net for a lot of kids, and I think a lot of the parents get anxious about it, worried about what's going to happen with the boxing club if it was to close, if things don't work out, and I think they also get anxious that the kids perhaps don't win enough bouts and they're going to pack it in. They don't want to do it, a couple of losses and they turn it in. But I see the value as an ex-copper, especially. I'm a true believer that boxing saves lives, it transforms lives, and inspires lives. People like Billy Adams, he's inspired so many people at that club. Billy sadly lost his mum when he was a young boy, he was only 10 or 11, and boxing was his drive. He wanted to he'd done everything in memory of his mum in amateur boxing, and when he won that elite title, there's a photo in our gym of him pointing up to his mum. It's a saviour as well. I mean, his dad obviously was his coach alongside my brother Sean, but Billy, he was our club captain, undefeated pro now, and I'm so proud of that boy. He's if you could ever sort of mould a club captain, he's what you want every time. He's brilliant. We've got another GB member at the moment in Isaac Oko as our club captain. He's doing really, really well. And hopefully, if LA happens, LA 2020, he can get to LA 2028. Let's see. But I do think the boxing club gives them a sense of security, gives them an opportunity to achieve. It tackles all the usual social issues around obesity, crime, education. I mean, we work with local schools. I'm constantly writing to the schools of our boxers to let them know how they're doing, especially if they do well in a championship. I sometimes have to write to the school to ask for permission to have time off to compete in box cups and to box for England. And I'm quite proud to sort of tell the schools really how well the boys and girls are doing. And that's something that's really on the up at the moment at Dagenham. That's what you're going to see over the next year or two, a massive influx of female boxers, because that's one focus we're on at the moment.
What's the state of play for amateur boxing in this country today, in your opinion? Because you see it from so many different angles. You see it from a CSO angle, you see it from an officials, coach, a club chairman. What's the state of play?
I think the best word to use is uncertain, because the Olympics is the drive behind everything, unfortunately. It's connected in terms of the funding that the sport attracts to continue to do what we're doing and develop what we're doing. Everyone at England Boxing is pushing for us to get that Olympics, to make sure it happens. If the Olympics aren't happening, and we know it's not happening, quite a few boxers, amateur boxers, elite boxers will probably go pro. We'll lose them. But I think the biggest impact will be the funding side of it for the sport, the talent pathway. I think that may well not collapse, but certainly be scaled down. I know that there are at the moment alternative plans being made around sort of funding, kind of like Plan B. But I do feel like in terms of clubs, I mean, we had this big split happened, what was that, 7-8 years ago? And I think we're back up to above where we were then in terms of clubs, numbers of clubs, and still got a lot of clubs coming back in. As a club support officer, I'm in London. I'm seeing a hell of a lot of reaching out to return to England Boxing from the Alliance. I never fell out with anyone from the Alliance. As far as I'm concerned, they chose to go to a different organisation. If they want to come back, they're welcome back. And I think it will be beneficial if we can all get back together, because it makes, the more of us there are, the stronger it will make us. So yeah, I've been working on that over the last, in fact, over the last few months. Quite a few clubs from the Alliance have come back to us, so that's a good development. I think there's quite a lot of work around from England boxing around sort of making the sport a lot safer, especially with the Bilby inquest having been released. I don't know if you read the
Yeah, I've read it.
documents
Yeah.
online. It's quite sort of so tragic and quite obviously avoidable. Quite a lot of things in it could have been avoided, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned from it. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of things changing around how we do things and why clubs need to be seen and inspected and to make sure they're doing things, the way that they're meant to be doing things. It is a
And you
very,
do
very
that, don't you?
difficult.
You do your club checks as well around
Yeah,
London as part of your role. Yeah.
yeah. And it is difficult though. I mean, I've got 110 clubs in London.
Yeah.
I live out in Essex, but I'm in London most of the time at my gym, and I just try and get around to as many gyms as I can. Luckily, I see a lot of the personnel from the gyms on the circuit where I'm on the mic, emceeing shows and championships. So I do quite a bit of work. I always take my computer with me. I'll always help someone if they've got a problem with a locker. I've always been a bit of a people pleaser. I'll always try and help people. And I thought it was a natural progression when I become club support officer. I felt like I had quite a lot of experience to share. And that's what I've done. Like a lot of clubs I've helped open up and start, I try and sort of guide them sort of best way forward, how to shape the club, how to do things, how to run their sessions initially, and then split their sessions. But there'll always be people do things differently. But I think especially around sparring, I think we've got to become better at sort of managing how we sort of bring our boxers on, rather than just chuck them in and let them spar openly from the start. I'm a great believer in tech sparring, conditioned
Agreed, yeah.
sparring, controlled sparring. I'm a great, but I very, very rarely take any sparring where it's open, unless it's with another club who've come down and we've arranged it. But even then, I usually ask them to take 10% of the power out of it. No need to go all out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a big educational piece, but it's also a cultural thing, isn't it? It's very much wham bam thank you ma'am, especially if you are inviting another club down, then you want to pressure test your boxers a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because it's important to make that bridge between sparring and competition. But the whole culture of spar, open sparring every night there's damage. There's damage.
Don't like to see that.
We got to mitigate that.
Yeah,
No.
definitely. I don't like to see it. I like the idea of also taking them out of our gym, taking them to other gyms, out of their comfort zone. Because when they're sparring constantly in their own gym, they get so used to it, and then they go out on a show and they freeze. Whereas if you're taking them out sparring elsewhere quite regular, they're quite used to it. They get quite used to it and more relaxed, and they get to know all the other boxers as well, which is handy sometimes.
Yeah, I think just going to another gym, another environment, people you don't know, rings different shapes, all of that is stuff that you're going to get when you compete. So why not introduce it into it? But yeah, I just think that we could do with a little bit more education around what good sparring is, what it looks like, how we develop skill, how we mitigate risk, a lot more. And I think we are getting better at that, but I think we're working towards that. Go on then, the final one then before we sign off then, the locker. How are we doing?
I think the locker is actually a gift. It's a real good piece of software, far better than the Vault ever was or could be. But it's one of those situations where it's such a massive change to volunteers that are running their clubs. I can understand why so many people have been up in arms and screaming, I can't get my lanyard, I can't get my QR code, I can't get this, can't get that. But it is finally settling. I've noticed over the last few weeks. I mean, we're 6 months in now, Adam. But that first month or two was manic. I'm only supposed to work a 35-hour week. I was easily doing 60 hours a week, just meeting people, sitting down, trying to. And I'm no IT expert either. That's one of my actual sort of downfalls in life. I'm not very good with IT, but I've got my head around the locker. I spent a lot of time working on it, and I feel like I can very easily show someone else how to do it, how to use it. It's a good bit of equipment. It's constantly improving as well. What I like about it, it's got a feedback feature where people can ask for things to be changed. And if enough people ask for the same thing, they do listen. Sport 80, the provider of Locker, are constantly changing things, improving it. And there will be change. I know there's changes in the pipeline to how it looks at the moment. And when you log on there at the moment, you see your photo. I know a lot of people want to see the boxer's record and their club as well, because you have to click a few buttons to get into that at the moment. But I think those things will change. And I do think one thing England boxing has done is listened. The locker was sort of launched pretty quickly without much notice. And that was largely because the the contract with the Vault was running out, and it was a case of either get this new contract up and running or renew the contract with the Vault. So we had to migrate all of the information from the Vault onto the locker, which was quite a thing. I've got to say credit to Avon Perriman, of all people. He was the man behind the locker coming in, and he knew everything about it. But as he found and I found, there were quite a few things we hadn't thought about when it come in. And so we spent a lot of time going around to the clubs, doing surgeries and workshops, just to sort of get people used to it. I mean, I'm sure you will remember when the Vault was first released, and it was pandemonium then. We had exactly the same thing. No one knew how to use it. But then some people become really good with it, the Vault. I must admit, I never really got my head around the Vault. But I've got my head around the locker, but probably because I'm an employee. But yeah, now I spend a lot of time, a lot of people that have problems with the Vault, the locker, I still get them around the wrong way. I'll just get them to come down to my gym, or I pop to their gym, or I meet them for a coffee, sit down, we go through it. And I usually take my laptop. I'll also show them on the phone, because I do think the locker's quite sort of phone friendly.
Yeah.
But what I will say with that, at the moment, if you're an iPhone person, if you're a Android, it seems to have been a little bit more problematic. And there were things we didn't expect, but yeah, I mean, the QR codes, the boxers' e-passes, the coaches' e-passes, I can see us stitching lanyards over the next few years. If you've got a QR code, you go into the venue, you show it to supervisor or whoever it is gives you a wristband to get you in the field and play. Why do we need a lanyard?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I've said to a few people when I'm sort of rubbing shoulders, you're standing there with another coach or whatever and just watching about. I said to them, I think in, I don't know how many years' time, it might be 3 years, 5 years, when we look back at what we were doing pre-locker and almost laugh and go, how did we do it with the paper stuff? Because before we pressed the record button, we were having a chat, weren't we? And I said, the worst problem I had was getting a passport from a mum or a dad, getting them to bring it in, getting it back to them, stamp address envelope off, going to the post office, paying for that stamp address envelope, getting it back, getting it forward, all that stuff. It's gone. But you sort of think maybe in 5 years, when we look back at it, we go, oh, this is how we used to do it. And all us coaches will be going to all the new brigade, this is what we did, and they'll laugh at us. While it's uncomfortable now, and it is still uncomfortable, there's still a few bits I'm like, oh, what do I do? What do I do here? I think those fires will slowly be put out, if I'm honest, as more people get more competent every season around it. But I think we'll look back and just laugh and think, surely we should have done that 20 years ago, maybe.
How much time did you spend looking for your BCR1 cards? I mean, I don't know about you. I was constantly looking for missing cards, whether it was coaches had forgot to pick the card up from a show, whether I'd left it in my coat pocket, whether it was in the car, or I've left it at a show. It was so many times and so many mistakes on those cards as well. Whereas now, I think it's much harder for mistakes to be made. We can't lose the cards. They're digital. They're online. No one can sort of interfere with them. It's so much easier to transfer boxers and coaches. In fact, I would go as far as to say it's too easy to transfer now. It's literally press a button. Someone clicks a button on their phone. They get a notification via email, and that's transfer done. It's a lot easier. And I always said to people, it's this initial sort of upload of data, boxers' records. Once we've got that done, we've cracked it, because we'll have a kind of almost like a box rec kind of database at some point. Perhaps not exactly the same, but it's definitely going in that direction. And I do think I can see the potential. I've always thought it was odd you'd have a ringside recorder sitting there writing all the bout sheets down, and as well as I do, that recorder sheet just it sits in a drawer somewhere for years and years. No one ever looks at it. Whereas now that the information's being retained, we can use it in the future as part of the matchmaking database. And not only is it being retained, it's being input by someone who's impartial at ringside, is secure, and only certain people have access to it, matchmakers or primary contacts. I do think it's getting better, but I already think it's better than the Vault anyway, a lot better.
Yeah, I think everyone listening to this right now will agree with that. But yeah, definitely on the up. Listen, Dan, really appreciate your time, mate. My sort of objective was just to shine a little bit more light on Dan as opposed to Dan the MC, but Dan the coach, Dan the CSO, Dan the bloody everything that's in that title that I said right at the start. So hopefully people have got a bit more of an idea of you. Absolute boxing man through and through. So really appreciate your time, mate. And I look forward to seeing you sprinting and wearing out another pair of Italian shoes at a show coming soon.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Adam. Appreciate it. And I appreciate what you do as well, because you've got a thankless task as well.
Haven't we all? I appreciate that. Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
All the best, yeah.
Take care. Cheers, and bye, mate.
All right.